out there in Facebook land, Instagram land, TikTok land, YouTube land, and wherever else you land. I'm Derek Day, in case you don't know me, and normally this segment would be called Unreligious. That's what I've been using Thursday nights for. But I'm here today to make an announcement. Not that really anybody gives a shit, but this is really more for me. It's cathartic for me. And it's this that I'm going to change gears a little bit as far as how I do social media because many of you know that I was a Christian pastor, a Christian ecumenical leader for many years, and that defined my presence on social media for most of the nearly 13 years that I've been on it. Now, the last 2 years represented a change for me because I went from being a Christian to being atheist. And as a result, I want to share what I learned about being an atheist or my transition to becoming an atheist with others in hopes that they could get religion. Now, here's the thing. I'm not trying to tell anybody what to believe. What you believe is what you believe. My issue with religion, and particularly Christianity, is that by and large, it has caused more harm to humanity than it has caused benefit. And that's where I was. So my take on it was I wanted to do as many things to cast aspersions on Christianity just to prompt some thinking, because one of the problems that we have, and it's not just in modern society, I think that this is kind of like life in general, is that we get on autopilot and we try to autonomically, do things. Not, in other words, we don't want to apply conscious thought. It's like if you've ever been in your car and you leave work and then suddenly you pull up in the driveway of your house and you say, how the fuck did I get here? Because all you did was just kind of went through the motions. You were on autopilot. You were no different than the autonomic driving device in your car, if you have that. Anyway, so my take on life is get off autopilot. I mean, when you get on autopilot, all kinds of things happen. Your health suffers, your relationships suffer, all of these things, because you're not really engaged. You're not applying your full human self to the situations and circumstances of life. And as a result, you're just going through the motions. And the thing that I've been trying to do with my atheist transition is to get people to stop going through the motions. Now, that being said, I've had some conversations with some people that I consider to be wise counsel. Among them, my two youngest sons. And, basically they said, hey, Dad, some of the stuff that you post is really cringeworthy. Now, understand this. I adapt myself, my methods, my raison d'etre to suit anyone but me. However, the one thing that I do know about myself is that from the time I was able to walk, my grandest desire has always been to help others. That has always been my biggest motivation. What can I do to help someone else be better? And so I've had a great deal of success at this because Now, I'm going to say this, and I'm not saying this to boast. I'm just saying this as a matter of fact. But for almost the last 30 years, I have never made less than $100,000 in a year. That has been my low water mark. And this isn't a flex. I'm going somewhere with this because, in addition, see, the thing is that making a lot of money is not really a metric of success. A lot of people think that it is, but it isn't. What really is a metric of success is how many other people can you help achieve what you've achieved. And by that measure, now this is a flex because I have helped at least 20 people in my lifetime achieve six-figure or better incomes. In fact, I've helped a couple of people become millionaires. And as a matter of fact, I myself once upon a time actually was a millionaire. Here's the thing, you make it, you lose it, right? That's just kind of like the cycle of life. So I know what it is to be wealthy, and because I grew up poor, I always say this. When we were growing up, we weren't poor; we were just poor. We couldn't afford the OR in poor. We were just poor, and so I understand what it is to not know where the next meal is coming from, to not know that the lights will be on or the water will be on. I know all of that. I know what it is to have abundance, and I know what it is to have nothing. But at a point in my childhood, I made a decision that I was not going to live like this all my life. And fortunately, my mom had also made that similar decision because by the time we had got to like high school, my mom was doing well. She had went to school and she worked several jobs, and she did some things. My mom had a lot of ambition and a lot of moxie. And so she helped to lift us up. And in the process, we saw her, and I think there was something instilled in each of the three of us. I'm talking about Shirley's kids. I'm not talking about all of Dickie's kids. That's two different things. But I made a decision, just like my mom. I may be here, but I'm not going to stay here. And that has also been a big part of my life. Always been all about moving. I've always been about growth. I've always been about change. And I really believe that unless you are growing, unless you are changing, you are essentially dead. And that, my friends, that's where I believe religion left most of us. Religion, religion is basically the mortuary of the soul. It's where your soul goes to die, and basically it teaches you how to die, how to prepare to die, and so you're so obsessed with death that you forget to live. So that was my driver behind that. But I've made a decision that this particular segment, this Thursday night segment, I'm going to pass this off to my friend and brother, Jimmy Ligon. And Jimmy's an atheist. He's articulate. He's funny. And he is going to have a rousing good time. I'm going to support him. I'm going to listen to him. And I'm going to encourage you to do likewise, whether you are religious or not, because Jimmy is he's so cerebral that he bring things to light that you won't get in Sunday school. You won't get in church. And frankly, again, if your belief can't withstand a challenge, it isn't worth believing in at all. Okay. So what am I doing going forward? Well, I remember when I was young, when I was a teenager, I was a bit of a Renaissance man because I like to turn wrenches, fix cars. I was into fashion, into sports. I was into comics. I was into, uh, I was actually a model in high school. Yeah. So there were a lot of things that I used to like to draw. I like to paint. Um, and I'm going to go back and start doing some of this stuff again. I'm going to share my adventures with everyone because I think that if you really begin to explore all of the things that you could do, all the wonder of the things that you can accomplish, I think that what will happen is you just won't have time for a bunch of religious nonsense because you'll be too busy enjoying life, really drinking it all in and doing different things. So there are a lot of projects that I have. Just I want to get back to playing my guitar. I want to get back painting, things like that. I'm on a fitness journey right now, and I'm taking a very measured, scientific approach to this time. It was like before I just, I was an exercise rat, and I was every day working out, and I'm trying to burn, 1,200, 1,500 calories a session. Well, I'm not doing that anymore. Fuck, I'm 60 years old. I don't, there's only so much of that to really do. But I'm taking a very measured approach to that, and I'm going to share that with everyone. Um, and some other things like Aaron Thomason and I, we have this belief that there are a lot of voices in the spiritual world, not religious, in the atheistic and agnostic world. That these are voices that need to be heard. That there are people that are getting into metaphysics and other more scientific aspects of spiritualism, and we're going to make a concerted effort to promote and to assist people like that to get their messages out because Aaron and I have been very successful over the last 3 years in sharing what we call freeology, and I'm really grateful for that. Aaron and Aaron is another one of my wise counsel who when I told him about the transition that I was making, he said, Derek, he said, that is really, real powerful. And I appreciate that coming from him. So, there are other things that I want to share. I like good libations. I like good booze and good wine, and I'm going to share some of that with people. My fashion sense. Many of you have been seeing the post on with my hat and I'm going to do more of that because I like clothes. I like clothes. I like hats. I like shoes, and I want to share that with everyone. I'm hoping that'll entertain you and encourage you. And another thing too is that with getting old, um, some people associate getting old with getting stale, and I'm not. I'm determined not to be that way. I'm going to feed my mind by reading books. I'm going to feed my spirit by listening to music and things like that. Doing meditation and all of these things. Really, everything. I'm going to share a lot of this with you. Now, here's the interesting part, because by the math, switching from shit posting about religion and dunking on Christianity, there are going to be some people that really enjoyed that, and they're basically going to not tune in. And there's nothing I can do about that. And the other thing too is that for those of you that have been praying me to return to Christianity, well, I think the prayer is nonsense, and your prayers are going to go nowhere because barring Jesus actually making a physical manifestation, not to me, because I'm just one person. But like if he shows up at the gathering place here in Tulsa and appears to like 50,000 people, it would have to be something of that order of magnitude for me to even consider uh, going back to the vomit that I call Christianity. But I'm not going to be dunking on Christianity anymore. I got better things to do with my life. I also recognize that there is a shit ton of more runway behind me than there is ahead of me. And so I have to make the best of the remaining time that I have. And I want to leave a legacy of helping others. And here's the thing. We all have a legacy that we leave for our family, for our spouses, for our children, our parents if they are still alive, or other relatives, our siblings, what have you, friends, neighbors, and all of that, and all that's great. But I want to do something on the order of magnitude of the Tesla coil. I want to do something on the order of magnitude of the great masters of Rembrandt and Van Gogh and others. I want to go down in history as someone who impacted the world. Now, some people will say, well, Eric, that's pretty egotistical. Well, probably. And the other thing that I want to share too is that there are a lot of things that we have considered to be bad. We've been taught that they're bad, that certain degrees of selfishness are, but they have an ego is bad, or being unforgiving is bad. And one of the things that I'm going to do along this journey is I'm going to debunk a bunch of this bullshit that says that all of these things that we were taught, that's really nonsense. I mean, honestly, I've said this before, there's nothing wrong with being unforgiving towards someone that shit on you and has no contrition. I don't believe in giving out hall passes. I'm not going to anymore. Just not. I'm going to build boundaries in my life. I already have good boundaries, but I'm going to build some more, and I'm going to share those with you, because you too need boundaries. And another thing is freedom. What does it really mean to be free? And let me say this about freedom. This is something that I've learned, is that if anyone in your sphere of influence is in bondage, you probably are too. But free people. And I want to share things with you that to free your thinking, which will be your emotions, which will free your body, and ultimately free your being. And that's what all of this is all about. I want to help people be as free and as happy and as productive as they can be. And I have a lot of thoughts on business. And one of the things that I do, I'm a consultant by profession. And as a consultant, when we talk to a customer about transformative technology, one of the first questions that we ask is, where does it hurt? Where are the pain points? What isn't working for you? Why don't you think it's working for you? What kind of you think may help you, and how can we, our knowledge, our expertise, our tools, our technology, and apply it to your situation to help you overcome a hurdle that may be impacting your bottom line, that may be impacting your ability to be agile and full in the marketplace and in response to your customers. So this is the approach that I'm going to take. So I want to ask you, where does it hurt? Where does it hurt? Where does life hurt right now? Put that in the chat. Where does life hurt right now? What are some of the things that you think you may not be doing right? What are the things that you think you are doing right? And in either case, what do you think you can be doing to make it better? Or if you yourself don't think you can make it better, who do you think can? It's not God, by the way. And I'll tell you this, that the answers to life's most difficult questions are between here and here. In other words, look within. You don't have to look without. There is no external salvation. There is no external help or anything like that. Now, one of the things that Aaron and we have I guess what you would call a gentleman's disagreement. It's not even a disagreement. We just have different nuanced perspectives on this, but we both believe that there's a greater consciousness. And what I believe is that this consciousness is sort of it's benign, and it's really dependent upon those who are actually engaged in consciousness. So in other words, we have the ability to change our situations. In other words, this consciousness isn't going to change us. We change it, and in changing it, we change it globally. We begin to make deposits into this consciousness that overwhelm that which is negative, and thus influence and impact consciousness as a whole. That's my take on it. That's not Aaron's. I don't want to get it. I don't want to get it twisted here. But I'm going to spend more time on understanding, developing, and sharing thoughts on consciousness, because I really believe that that's the key to growth. And I also want to say this. I've said a lot about logic and reason, and this is something that drives most atheists. They say, well, we need to be more driven by logic and reason. Well, I'm going to pump the brakes on that just a bit, because I think that to say that we totally rely on logic and reason denies part of our humanity. It denies part of our experience. And I don't want to get to that. I want to be fully human, which means that I want to experience my emotions. I want to feel what it feels to love and be loved, to enjoy, to savor, to make it. I want the full experience. So there are certain things where you have to set logic and reason aside. I'm not saying abandon them, just like I'm not saying abandon your emotions. True story. When I was growing up, we were always taught boys don't cry. Men don't cry. And so we had a generation coming up of dysfunctional men because we didn't know how to experience sadness, sorrow, grief, anger. We didn't understand how to process these emotions. Well, I made a determination or a decision that when I became a parent, that and especially for male children, which I have 5 boys, that I would not tell them not to cry. I would never tell them man up. No. You have the right and the responsibility to yourself to experience the full range of emotions, because that is all part of your human experience. So I don't want to cheat them of that. And so as a result, my I think that my sons are some of the most emotionally grounded people that I know. And I pat myself on the back for that, myself and my wife. But anyway, um, another thing that what I want to say is that there are people who will look at you in transition and they'll get mad because you change. And they get mad because they have grown accustomed to a certain version of you. Well, I think about this like years ago, Microsoft came out with Windows 3.0, and it was a far cry from MS-DOS. It was a sea change from that. Now, it was still behind the Mac OS in terms of the seamless graphical user experience, but it was a vast improvement over its own predecessor. And over time, over the years, Windows has evolved and changed and grown into the product that we know now as Windows 11. Now, Windows 11 couldn't even run on the computers that Windows 3.0 ran. Couldn't even exist there. The footprint of the software itself is too big. The addressing of the memory is too big. Everything was just too big. It just wouldn't fit. And what I'm saying to you is that sometimes your new version of you is bigger than it'll fit into the paradigm of other people, what other people have of you. And you have the right, as the publisher of the software called you have the right and the responsibility to periodically reinvent yourself. You have the right and the responsibility to change. You know, a caterpillar does not remain a caterpillar for its entire life. It engorges itself, it spins a silk cocoon, and after a period of time, it comes out as a beautiful butterfly. And one of the things that you have to understand is that butterflies don't speak caterpillar. That when the caterpillar transforms into a butterfly, its entire makeup, its entire being changes. And you have the right and the responsibility to do that periodically. That's really, really powerful. And that's one of the things that I hope to share with you in the coming months or years, or however long this phase of my journey lasts. Because one of the things that I can guarantee you, I can't, there are a lot of things about me that I cannot guarantee, but the one thing that I will guarantee is that I will periodically change. And many of you will like it, many of you will love it, and many of you will hate it. And it's okay. Because at the end of the day, not everything is everybody's cup of tea. Me personally, I absolutely detest, I hate Mounds and Almond Joy candy bars. Why? Because coconut. I hate coconut. Now, I don't care what version of me there will be. There will never be a version of Derek that likes coconut. That's not happening. But what I'm saying is that millions of people eat Almond Joy and Mounds bars, or else they wouldn't still be here. Because these rascals have been around since I was a kid. I remember the first time back in the day, it was a company called Peter Paul that made Mounds and Almond Joy, but they also made a candy bar called the Powerhouse, which was sort of like a Snickers bar, but with almonds on top. And it was the bomb. But one day I took my little quarter or whatever it cost back then into the candy store, and I thought I was getting a Powerhouse bar because I was reaching in the box where the Powerhouse bars were, and I wound up getting a fucking Almond Joy. I'll never forget that. I was 5 years old, and I bit into that rascal. I was like, "Ugh." It really frustrated me. But the point that I'm getting at is that was 1968 when that happened. It is now 2023, and you can still get a Mounds or Almond Joy. You can't get a Powerhouse anymore. There's a lesson there, because not everything, not everything that you uh, like will survive, and not everything you dislike will go away. I'm looking at, I'm hoping I'm not looking at you, religion, but that's kind of like, but anyway, you have to, you have the right, the responsibility to change. And again, uh, when you undergo chrysalis, when you undergo your own transformation, you may come out of it speaking a language that the people prior to your change, that they don't understand. You may walk differently, you may talk differently, you may have different likes, you may have different opinions. It's okay. Muhammad Ali once said that if you believe the same things at 50 that you did at 30, you wasted 20 years of your life. That's powerful. In other words, you should be adaptable, flexible, pliable. I know that I've gone through a host of changes. You know, things, how I feel about sexuality is a big one. That's a key one, because I used to preach that shit. God made Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve, and oh boy, was I ever wrong. I was wrong, and there are so many people that I'm not hurt because of my views, because of my perspective, and so I deeply regret a lot of that, and I've gone back and I've tried to make some of those things right again. But anyway, I could go on and on about this, but long and short of it is that there's a new me coming up, and I'm not going, you know, oh, that's another thing. Got to say this too. I got to put this out here, because politics and social issues, my take on those are going to be pretty much the same. And where I can, you know, cast aspersions on the right and, you know, conservatism, I'm going to do that, because the transition that for most of my adult life, Republican, and I can't even really put my finger on the pivot for that like I can with atheism. I can almost tell you to the day when I decided to be atheist. The transition from Republican to socialist, that's a change I can't really put a finger on. But what I realize is that for as good as my life is, I really believe that a lot of the goodness of my life happened at the expense. And that's the case with a lot of people who have a lot of wealth, a lot of power, or whatever, that a lot of that comes from others. And one of the things that I want to do want to talk about that, get that in the public forum. The reality there are just far too many people that have not. The gap between the haves and the have-nots is greater than it has ever been in history, and I really think that needs to change. But it doesn't change until, first of all, people understand what the mechanics of economics are, and the mechanics of sociology are, and psychology. But until we understand that, and then start to develop some empathy for people who are in positions that are less privileged or less fortunate than our own, and having compassion at large for humanity, and to that point, nothing really changes. Condition doesn't change. But I really believe that right now we're at an age of enlightenment where you're going to see the numbers of religion shrinking across the board. You're going to see Christianity, Islam, Buddhism. You're going to see all of the major religions. They're going to shrink. And, but one of the things that you have to be wary of is that whenever you corner a wounded animal, it becomes real. So you're going to have to keep that in mind as you're dealing with religious people going forward, because in their zeal to protect this thing that they believe in, this ideology, this philosophy, this theology that they have, they are going to try to defend that at all costs. And you're going to have to be aware of that. So I think that pretty much does it. I'm going to look here and see who do we have here. I had a lot of people tune in on Instagram. So I'm going to send some waves out. Clicking the waves, clicking the waves. And I'll read some of the comments, which for some reason, not really many comments on Facebook tonight. I feel so loved. Mr. Easy 74 says, "Hey man, love your stuff. I've got an idea about taxes and churches you might find useful. Put it in my inbox there, Mr. Easy. We'll see what we can do there." Because that's the other thing too. I want to hear what you have to say. So if you have any thoughts about any of this, feel free to inbox me or put it in the chat. Put it in the comments. I'm waving. And don't feel bad, TikTok. I'm coming for you in a minute. But I'm trying to get all these. There were a lot of people on Instagram. A lot of people joined in. Candy and Cough says, "Good morning." For some people it is. I guess it's 5 a.m. somewhere, right? And so let's see. Who's on TikTok? Let's see. John Jack 451 says, "Like bun candy bars." All right, cool. Yeah, not as many people on TikTok either. Yeah, it's usually Thursday nights, so pretty big audience. So right now, only one person is watching right now. Mavis Sin Hyung. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Yeah. Okay, so Candy Cough is from India. Cool. That visiting the mainland of India is on my bucket list. I mean, I've traveled over most of the world. I haven't been to mainland Italy. Mainland India. I'm sorry, mainland India, and I haven't been anywhere in the Far East. Haven't been to Singapore, Malaysia, Japan, China, Hong Kong, Philippines, or Australia or New Zealand. Haven't been anywhere. But short of those few places, I've been pretty much everywhere else. It's been a good life. I mean, it's like I'm one of those cats that, like, if I die, I've done a lot, so it's cool. Um, but yeah. So anyway, I want to thank everybody for joining, and I want to thank everybody that catches this on the replay. And I hope a few people catch this on the replay and really listen, um, and hear my heart first of all, not just my voice, uh, but kind of grasp what does it mean to really change, because again, to push the envelope anywhere. You're not going to upset status quo anywhere. You're not going to grow or experience any change, without pushing things. You're going to you're just you have to change. You have to grow. I mean, honestly, you have to. It isn't just that you want to. Um, just like software is updated, cars are redesigned, fashion changes. All of these things change because life is not static, and you shouldn't be either. So that's what I have for now. Thank you for attending my TED Talk. Peace and hair grease. Love y'all. For real. For real.